Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. By Jackson Irelia. Jackson Irelia. Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. Proc it. Jackson Irelia. T-Force.
Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and casts from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like you're Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and you can find me on Twitter at GGCPone. Dominic is with us at DSharoni.
How's it going?
DeClawd is here at DeClawd.
Howdy.
There is no E in that. That is DECLAWD. People try
You got it.
There's one less E than...
People try to spell it all funny. They try to add a K, or they spell it Claude
Leave off
out.
the last D. Or, no, E.
And Chira is here. That is at Chira Jaden.
I'm right here and I have watermelon, so let's party.
Woo! Watermelon!
It's funny that they spelled the Claudes wrong, because I feel like Chira's is the harder of the two.
Everyone
Yeah.
just types Chira or Chi-Chi
Yep.
or Chi-Chi-JJ.
I get people who ask me, what's his Twitter? I can't spell it, so I gotta link him.
It's not easy.
No, it's that way on purpose because, you know, you have to figure out my name before you
Change
can...
it to at Chi-Chi-JJ.
Oh my god, yes.
Christ.
Please do it. Please do this.
So much easier.
Chira.
Hi.
I have to point out that one of the YouTube comments at youtube.com/T-Force Podcast was Chira's girlfriend, though.
Cheers, girlfriend now.
Yeah.
Aw, yeah.
It was like in the background, like because they
Gotta
see your
tell her.
girlfriend walk by all the time.
Yeah, because she walks by all the time.
Oh, really? That's what happens?
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
she just
No.
did like
No,
30
no,
seconds.
Logic.
Oh,
Telling you.
She's the greatest. You should see the shit that you can't see in frame that she does to troll me. That's the best.
Don't tell the people that.
I'm not going to. Even though I'm sure they would love to. Oh, God, here
Don't
she
tell the
comes.
people, just tell us right now.
There she is. All right, twitter.com/T-Force Podcast for updates. We are moving forward with Facebook and Twitter. We are bringing on a friend of the show. I will have his name next week, but we are in discussion right now. We'll have a social media manager actually taking care of Twitter and Facebook here moving out, so you guys can interact with the podcast more frequently, and you can find all of us at our Twitter handles. You'll always see that on YouTube. They're below our names. I have a gnat flying in front of my face. Other than that, let's move forward, and we're going to talk about the Worlds Party thing we're doing here real quick. We don't have a date for it yet. That is coming up. That is going to be the weekend of Worlds. We're going to have a date and a time within the next week. Chira and I just need to sit down and talk about it. But I want to wrap up any misconception because I've had a lot of emails of you guys running. I want you to do this. I might come for it. Let us know the details. I want to be there. I want to talk to you guys. But just so you guys know, this is not a Worlds viewing party. We're not going to be going back to anybody's house or any place to watch the game. We're going to be going here, drinking beers, talking, and then we'll all be leaving and going watching the Worlds someplace else. So I apologize if you guys wanted to watch Worlds with us, but we don't have a place that we can all reliably watch Worlds at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Especially in a small apartment that doesn't have any air conditioning and is hellacious. When there's a bunch of people in the same room.
I'm gonna have to get if I go to this, I'm
October?
gonna have to get a hotel room, won't I?
No.
No, you're
Yeah.
buddy.
Bring. We got.
I gotta fly. I can't. I gotta pack light.
You could do what Wrecker did and sleep in my pantry.
This is not pack a sleeping bag and a computer and your entire pantry
Yes,
and then
it is.
come hang out. It's like,
Yes,
no,
it
this is.
But yeah, so if you guys want to join us, do know that we are going to be meeting up in Columbus, Ohio, the weekend of Worlds. We were thinking Elevator Brewing Company right now. Good beer, micro brews, lots of places to park, big area to sit in. We will have all those final details within the week. So expect that in like episode 1, what are we on, 187? Expect that in 189 for the final details of that show. Moving forward, we do have a sponsor this week. It is the Nature Box. You guys heard us talk about that a few months back. We haven't talked about them in quite a while, but what is it? bit.ly/T-Force Nature. You just click on that URL, buy the box for $20. You get healthy snacks delivered to your door monthly. You get 5 of them. And Chira eats all 5 right away.
They're delicious. The last 2 times I've gotten a box, I've eaten them within the first day or day and a half that I've had them.
Has Mitch ordered them yet?
I don't know. I haven't asked him.
All right.
He doesn't
Makes
talk
sense
to the
with
guys on the other shows.
Yeah.
Nature
He doesn't
Box.
show up, do work, and never talk to the boss. We're the only ones who get to talk to the boss.
Right.
Okay.
So
That's how it works. But, you know, it's
bit.ly/T
nature
Force Nation.
box.
Baux.
All right. So that is everything with the sponsorship. Guys, don't forget to check out the Battle Arena. I need to make a correction from last week because the Oceanic Battle Arena goes live at 7 p.m. AWST, and they also go live on the show with the Oz LOL podcast at 4 a.m. Eastern time on Thursdays. And if you can't be up that early because that's like 1 a.m. PST.
Well, if you're Luke the Trucker or like his ilk and you're out on the road, you never know.
Download and listen to it, guys. That's the way to hear that show if you're
listen
not
to
in
it live.
Australia.
And the LCS Rundown, they get released every Tuesday around midnight. We are really pushing that so they come out more frequently at that time. They talked about the EU playoffs this week. It'll be NA next, or not NA next week. NA is a week away from that, but they'll be talking all of the playoffs from all the regions: LPL, GPL, World. Korea, everything. They're talking about every week. It's about an hour and a half podcast now, so the LCS Rundown guys are doing a fantastic job. And quick point, I got two more quick points. One is that Mott Nagorum, the host of the show, got engaged last weekend.
Oh, congratulations, Mott.
Congrats, buddy.
Oh, Mott.
So congratulations, Mott.
Congrats.
And, DeClaude is hour 0 here. We are just waiting for Syndra to emerge from her icy chamber.
That's what you want to call it.
Probably pretty warm in there.
With the sound bite. But yeah, my wife should be going to labor any time, so sure I'll have a lot of puns here for this podcast, but I may run out mid-show.
I can just see your wife like giving birth and you're just screaming.
God damn it, DeClaude. I caught that one. Fuck you.
I caught it.
Yeah. So anyway, it could happen, so I might have to abandon y'all on this one, but maybe not. Maybe Wednesday will be the same predicament. Who knows? Whenever she decides to come out and have a whole world to toy with. We'll
by the way, everybody go tweet at Ghostcrawler. I talked to him last week, and he's interested in doing the show. We just have to really push him to go and talk to people and get on the show. So
nice.
That's good. He's interested in going, and I'm going to keep pushing hard. So go tweet at him and say, hey, I want you on the Trinity Force podcast.
Rally the minions there, Adam.
Right. Other than that, that is it, guys. Go check out the Journey to 30. Everything is all on youtube.com/T Force Podcast. With that said, we're going to go ahead and move into League of Legends discussion like we do every week. First and foremost is Gnar. We said we won't talk about him until he's released. A couple of us have had a chance to play him or played with him or played against him. I'm going to leave the table open to whoever wants to grab this piece first. And
I'm going to throw this out there.
Talk about it.
E ability is probably the most fun ability in the game right now. Or maybe just my many, many years of playing video games has left me with a long-term love for jumping on things and bouncing forward as a result.
So you played him in a custom game?
Yeah, I didn't get into much League over the weekend and everything. Did try him out in a custom game, and damn, that ability's fun.
Just bouncing up around and everywhere.
It's so fun. And the first time you're playing a champion, you're figuring out all the nuances and everything. And then I decided to actually read the tooltips, and you can bounce on friendly units, which makes that ability way, way better than...
you didn't think you could? Yeah.
I didn't think to try it.
And
because it deals it deals pretty good damage, so it's not like you want to...
You can just bounce on... Well, you can hop on nothing, and you move. So, but when you hit a minion or a enemy minion or a champion, you can bounce over them. So, which is nice. It really lets you close the distance. I played him a couple matches. One time I got destroyed against another Gnar, and the other time I didn't do too well either. I was playing top lane, but I came back later in the game once I started building my items. His ultimate is actually it's quite a power spike, even when you're mini Gnar. You don't have an active on it, but it's... I am a big fan of his W. His W seems very, very
good
powerful.
Ability. It's very potent.
It is potent. It's pretty much a passive when he's in mini Gnar mode. It is a passive. It allows him to every third attack do extra damage, and gives him a slight move speed bonus.
And it's flat damage as well as targets max health. So it's kind of like Vayne Silver Bullets. It's just not true damage.
Right. Yep, exactly.
Same idea there.
It's the same idea, Vayne Silver Bullets, and also Sivir passive slightly mixed in there, because every third attack, boom, you get a little movement speed boost. It's pretty sick. and that alone is enough. You see those you'll see red circles around you every time you're hit, and it'll go to 3 circles, and boom, you'll take that extra damage, and he'll move faster. So you can really stick to people, especially when you get attack speed. But his management of the rage is where he's a little tricky.
From everything I've read, that's going to be the biggest thing that keeps him away from competitive play is that management, because once you start getting to dragons or bigger team fights, you're not guaranteed to be Mega Gnar, and you can't control when you engage with Mega Gnar. So you could just be dancing and have to wait for him to change, and then you could engage.
And
you
I
can
thought
kind of
that
control, but you'll be letting CS go by if you stop attacking things. You can stop.
And I thought that was going to be his problem, even when they announced the champion. I think it's a cool mechanic, and I like that they introduced this champion, if only to say that, yeah, we are not going to do everything in our game just for the sake of competitive players. And if they pick up Gnar, great and everything, but if everybody thinks that's not going to be the case, that's fine. That doesn't mean the champion shouldn't exist,
Yeah, I don't know, the problem is when he goes into Gnar mode, he gains a shit ton of health. Like, I think it's 630. At the max rank, but he gains a lot of health, which means you're low,
a lot of health regen.
All of a sudden you go Gnar and boom, you've got your health back. So to be able to just toggle that would be overpowered.
Because it's such a considerable amount of power, I worry it's going to screw with players when they want to go back to base. Like, you're at a time where you reasonably could go back to base, and then all of a sudden you get the notification that you're about to transform. It's like, well, what the hell do I do here? If I go back to base, I've lost this huge power spike that I get for a moment. If I stick around, it's not necessarily that beneficial for me because the opponent is still going to be able to bully me, or I'm not going to have enough health and health regen to really make the most use out of it. It's this weird, you feel like you made the wrong decision no matter what you do. That's what I worry is going to be the case with that.
But with that, doesn't that make his level 2 all-in potential really huge because of the extra life and the damage that you gain? If you can learn to control his passive, you could all-in at 2 or 3 very easily.
If you can get him to 2 at level 2 to transform, and you go Q and E, then you can do the hop crunch, where he hops as Mini Gnar and then crunches down as Mega Gnar while he's transforming, which they showcase in the spotlight.
The only issue with that is that the enemy can see when that's gonna happen for the most part.
But you could toggle it to make it start, so you don't have to wait the 4 seconds out to transform. You can push yourself right into Mega Gnar.
Oh, you can?
I thought you could. No, it's next attack. It's once you have it going, its next attack turns you into Mega Gnar.
That's not entirely. There's still a little bit of time
for the transformation.
Your screen goes red. And then you kind of it fades red a little bit, and then you start to see, you can tell the transformation is gonna happen, but it's not
you just use an ability and
it takes a while though. It doesn't automatically. turn. It starts turning him, but the transformation
you mean
process,
there's a cast time on it? Like, what you're saying.
I've seen it. Basically. I've tried to survive with that. I've been like, rage. I'm turning. I'm sitting there hitting stuff, and I wouldn't turn in time to get my health boost, and I die. So you do have to wait for it. Same with going down to Mini Gnar. You're trying to chase someone who's getting away, and you want to change back to Mini Gnar, but you can't because you got to wait for its little timer. So there's a lot that's out of your control. You got to really get used to the timing with him. If you make him your main and devote all your time into playing him, like you would a Jace or an Irelia or Elise, then maybe you can get used to it. But unlike Jace, Irelia, and Elise, you can't control your transformations.
Well, he just seems like so chaotic in that regard, to where things happen and you can kind of influence them, but you don't really have that much control. So you're hoping that certain things happen in a certain way, so you get a big power spike to go do things. But that level 2, I could see him being incredibly powerful at level 2. But if the enemy knows it's coming, they just back off, wait for you to transform if you still want CS, and then wait for Mega Gnar to go away.
The question is, you use an ability, you instantly transform. That's the clarification I'm getting from Twitch chat here.
That's what I was saying.
Not the auto attack. You can auto attack all you want, but you got to use an ability, and it'll push you. So as long as they're not off cooldown.
If you have 100 rage, or whatever the hell it's called, there's a 4-second timer, if I remember correctly. There's a 4-second timer that makes you turn into it, but if you use an ability, you automatically turn into Mega Gnar. That's why the hop into Mega Gnar is so powerful, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Right.
Okay.
And that's how you can...
that's how you try to manage it. You got to make sure abilities off cooldown. Which it will be, because W... Well, you can't use W.
From what I've seen him played and I haven't played against him from what I've seen him played as well. The mini Gnar is really powerful in lane because of the range and the Q. And, the threat of having that extra, the bounce, and you can get out of ganks really easily. Like, he has really good lane presence. But once you're in Mega Gnar and you miss his Q, which is the boulder throw, you're kited super easily because you have no way to catch up to somebody. It's
kind of easy to miss that just because when you're mini, and that that's the way you start out, it goes through units. It hits everything. And then, you can very easily forget that, this ability no longer is going to...
Right. It stops on the first unit hit.
Yeah.
So I guess the consensus is he's a fun champion. He's probably one of those where it's going to take a while before we see Gnar really picked up and played by, I'm not going to say majority, by a larger player base.
It was a long time before we saw Jace, so that does make sense to a degree.
Now, I have a question about his boomerang toss, if anybody can clarify. It seems like it's got a real long range, but when I try to use it at max range, it would stop short and come back when it hit something. Is that just a mechanic of it? I couldn't get it to push all the way through to the max range and then come back.
It just says the boomerang...
No. Upon striking an enemy or reaching maximum range, the boomerang will slowly come to an end.
So it does, when it hits the first enemy...
Mm-hmm.
It'll go through a little bit, but, it's like Draven's ultimate.
I did notice that. So you can't really harass an enemy who's behind the minions too far with the boomerang toss unless you skirt it around. So,
right.
Okay.
Now, when you played him, how did you build him, D-Claude?
I built with the suggested items. I started off with a Doran's Blade. I went top lane. Doran's Blade, pot. And then I think the next item I went for was my level 1 boots when I had enough money. And then I started pushing the Bork.
Okay.
What I've seen is it's Blade of the Ruin King into tank. Just pure tank.
Yeah,
that's what makes the most sense to me.
I'm on pro builds right now, just looking at a match history for Gnar, and it's like super, either they get fed and just win the game, or they fed like crazy, and most of the feeding like crazy has to do when they built all offense. And they seem to be way more people are winning with just the Blade of the Rune King and full tank otherwise.
You don't really need anything else, though, than the Blade of the Rune King, because you're already doing percentage of life damage, and you have a stun and slow. So really, at a point, you are just a tank who can do extra damage on top of your kit.
Well, and it seems like there's a lot of just built-in damage in your kit, so that works out. That's interesting.
Well, the damage is all on one side, and then the crowd control's on the other side. And he gets bonus to his damage and durability and everything on the other side, but I mean, like, your auto attacks are hitting like a fucking truck when you transform. It's very noticeable, and so the attack speed from Blade of the Ruin King really, means you might get an extra hit or two off, and that can be the difference-making type of thing. But you have all of the crowd control, and it's a good.
Don't forget to use his ult either. In Gnar form, because you can't use it as mini Gnar, so you forget it's there, and then all of a sudden you're Gnar. Use it.
And it's pretty good. I mean, like, it moves every enemy in the direction that you want it to go, and they take extra damage if they hit walls and that type of stuff. So you can just you can hop in and just flay everybody towards your team, and it's kind of badass. Flay's a good comparison. Cool. Thank you. I hadn't even thought about that.
No problem, because you can manipulate the direction of Flay. That's the only other ability I think you can. The thing is, you just have to, like Adam said before, I think what'll keep him out of the competitive scene is the management of his rage. The fact that he has so much that's out of his control. But you never know. Look what happened with Zazus and Emperor Palpatine. Maybe someone will find his niche and they will bring him in. And then everyone will go, oh, crap, this is powerful. Let's...
I think it's going to be more of like a Draven comparison, where Draven was played, but only by like the most skilled players or in the right team comps, because you have to understand how to use his kit. Now, Dom, you brought up earlier that was part of his kit at the time, where he had the extra damage in lane to be a bully. And Gnar can be a big bully up in the top lane, but the problem, again, being the rage and not being able to use his passive properly, because I think with games going to 40 minutes, no matter what you do, that it's going to be too hard to stack his passive before a big fight happens, because big fights happen like every minute and a half.
Right.
I mean, it's a case where very mechanically proficient and micro attentive, I will say, players are going to be like, they should be able to be proficient with Gnar and everything. and the rest of us are going to struggle a little bit to really maximize that champion's potential. I think he has a really high ceiling as far as what he's capable of if you can really master everything that he does, but that's really the rub on it, because it's going to take a long time for people to like really good at master that champion.
I agree.
You know, it's funny. Just as a side note, you had I sent you an article earlier. I don't remember who tweeted it, but they were saying like the age of players. When you're at 24 years old, you've reached the peak of your what is it? Not cognitive ability, but your reactionary ability.
Mechanical
yeah, basically ability. Mechanical ability as far as leagues.
And once you are over 24, it's just a swift decline of how quickly.
So yeah, it was good for me. It was glad to know I started on a decline. I had no hope of getting better.
Yeah. So in the esports world, at 27 years old, you're an old man. You are an old fogey. You should be walking around with a cane because you do. But according there's a scientific study. They had a formula where you could take. I think it was 6.83 milliseconds time 0.008 time your age, and that became your reactionary time, and mine was like 8.83 milliseconds. And if you look at pro gamers, theirs are like 1 millisecond, or like crazy fast. There's no way I could ever reach that. Well, not no way. I'm sure if I played and made it my job, I might be able to get there, but I'm not gonna be able to get there as quickly as the younger generation.
You ever play with really bad lag and still make it work because you get used to it?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Same idea with the reaction. As you get older, you learn how to get around it. So sure, they're used to their low reaction or their quick reaction time. They're used to it, so they can get sloppy. You have to be on point with everything to make sure that you can attempt to beat them down. Us old guys can give them a run for their money. I want to see like an old fart League of Legends team.
Beat them down with all of your life experience and knowledge through text in game.
I want to see like 30 to 40-year-old gamers in a team. Our listeners out there, if you're in that age group, get training.
When you are in a zero lag environment, the younger players with the better cognitive ability and reactionary time, I think, are going.
They have the advantage,
and
them feel really bad when they lose.
And no MS.
Yeah, a zero lag environment. It's zero complete lag.
You know what? I'm such an insanely elite gamer that the forces that be gave me a handicap so that I could compete with everybody. It's just how it works.
Yeah,
that's a great way to look at it.
I love it. I love that there's so many people in our chat right now. Apparently, our demographic is a lot older than I thought, because everybody in the chat is like, "I'm so old. Oh my god, why?" I'll find the paper and I'll try to link it. And I'd have to go. On my YouTube or G chat because I sent it to Dom earlier. But that's that. So, hi puppy. Oh, dude, a puppy. All right.
Yeah, I remember when League of Legends were just legends written on parchment paper. Jesus all right, Christ. That's how old I am.
Well, let's talk. Let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here. We were playing a game last week with our Journey to 30 host, Asterishan, and I was asking, "Hey, what do I ban?" Because I haven't played the game in 4 or 5 days, and I haven't really had to ban. And he goes, "Well, you should ban Irelia. You should totally ban Irelia. Like she's gonna just stomp our team if we get her." And if we were all could look at each other, I think we all turned our heads that everybody at him and just kind of went, "What?
Huh? What? That girl?"
And he started to explain why, and his criticism is legit because she can become a beast. But I was like, if you know that you're playing against Irelia, you could just pick like Nasus, for example, and you completely shut her down in lane because of Wither and your innate lifesteal. So Irelia, do we feel that she is a ban? How do we feel that you should play against her? What do you guys think about Irelia here?
All I see Irelia as is a worse version of Jax that doesn't scale as well. I mean,
that was
she scales
exactly
great,
what I said too. It was like she scales fine, but at a certain point, like her damage is what it is, and you like, it's not like she's bringing a ton of burst or a ton of, like she doesn't die.
Here's the other thing too: if you're playing her and you're going with like a 21 whatever mastery, and you itemize like early Trinity Force and a Blade of the Rune King, like you do a lot of other carries out of the top lane, and you're just banking on your natural tankiness, unless you just happen to be crushing your lane and roaming around and getting a lot of money, you're still really squishy. And it's one of those things, yeah, you could be that 9-0 Aurelia, but you get locked down by 1 CC, even if your passive is reducing the amount of time CC'd, and then you get 2 shot by whatever. what good is that for your team? Meanwhile, you have somebody like Jax who can do all that stuff, has all the baked in, stuff from his kit.
I think what he sees is if she gets rolling, or I've had those games where I'm like, God damn, there's nothing we can do because this Irelia is fed and we can't compete. She's tanky. She does a ton of damage. She jumps in the back line with no worries. She can't be CC'd because she's in the back line around all of us, and her passive means that, okay, you stun her, she's out of it in a blink of an eye. So she can be annoying if she really, really gets rolling and gets fed. So, but that's just like any hyper-carried style champion. Jax, for example, like you were saying. And, of course, not as bad as like Tristana, Vayne, those hyper-carries, but out of the top lane, it's bad in its own way because she gets her resets. She can move around. She's a good champion. We saw her play it in the European LCS to some good advantage. But
she's so great in competitive play because of that passive and how safe of a laner she is. She has
her resets.
It's the resets. Yes, the Q reset. She's the best at last hitting under tower.
Under
Q
tower,
resets.
by far.
She does damage with a little bit of attack speed because of the true damage. She has built-in lifesteal, and also she has that Mercury Tread passive where she's very hard to CC and very hard to stop. That's why she's so good in competitive play, because she's just such a safe, and games have been going so long again, or they've always been the 30-minute point where you're gonna be at, there's such equal skill that it's very hard to shut down an Irelia.
And she has great dueling potential with the bonus true damage from her W. She's a great champion.
And I'm not disputing any of that. My big thing here is that doesn't put her into ban-worthy status. They're just going to be good champions, but you leave them on the board because they are there are a lot of things that kind of are conditional to them being really successful in a game. And Yasuo has a way, way bigger effect on the way games play out than Irelia does. Maokai, are you really going to leave Maokai on the board instead of Irelia? Or the other way around? Are you going to, do you really want to deal with Maokai instead of Irelia? That's just...
There's just other champions out there that are so much easier to ban. And at this point, I would say stop banning Kassadin even. Because he's been in ban prison so long. We saw it in the LCS. He's been in ban prison so long. He's so hard to play. People forget the mechanics behind him, or they don't have enough practice to be at that peak level that Kassadin was at.
I do think you were right. Your big thing that the reason the whole ban conversation started was because, you said, I don't know who to ban anymore because I don't really feel like anybody needs to be banned.
I'll tell you who I ban every time. Morgana, Lulu, Orianna. They all have shields. They all have saves for their teammates.
Fucking
and they all have that control that is so annoying to deal with. I'll take someone who's going to jump in my face and do tons of damage because I can try to control them. But if they have one of those guys and a Lulu, forget about it. If they have one of those guys and a Morgana with the black shield, forget about it. So that's who I prefer to ban. I ban the ones that turn those other really powerful champions into just unstoppable gods.
See, I don't have a problem with any of those bans. The same thing. I'll ban okay, I know, like we said last week, we know we go in the late game, so I'm going to ban late game champions, or I don't really want to play against Braum this game, so I'm going to ban him. That's kind of how I'm approaching ban right now. If it's a 5v5, I'm going to walk in there and go, this is the team comp we're going to run. We're going to run a heavy counter jungling team comp, so I'm going to take Nunu and ban the duelists like Lee Sin, or I'm going to, or we're going to gank top a lot, so we're going to make sure this person gets that top lane champion that we can take out, or we're going to give them Alistar because we're going to focus everywhere else and keep Alistar, stuck in the top lane. There's just so many little things you can do or plans you can walk in there, and that's where bans really come into play. Now, when it comes to solo queue, probably want to go ahead and just ban Kassadin, Yasuo, Morgana, Braum, Tristana, just anything that could really carry a game.
Yeah, those are the champions that come to mind for me there.
Yeah, those are the definite picks if they're available too. So what did Asdurician say was his reasoning for it?
It was basically he just felt like by the longer the game goes on, the more out of control she becomes and everything, and that's the hyper-carry syndrome at work there. But there are still champions who are worse. Yasuo again, just he's way more frightening if the game gets late than Irelia.
It just happened to be in that game that we played. If we would have given them Yasuo and not banned it, we would have lost the game because of how much more powerful he is than Irelia when it comes to a team fight scenario. So that's really how I feel. I think we kind of covered Irelia there and really walked her down and why we don't feel like she's ban worthy. And there's going to be other champs. I think this is going to spawn a good discussion.
You should still respect her.
Yeah, respect her.
Shut her down if she's there.
yeah, the whole discussion of this is you still respect champions, but we're at the point in the game where there are no like super prison ban worthy champions anymore. You could argue that Kassadin is, and I'll accept that argument because I understand what Kassadin can do in the right player's hands, and Yasuo.
Unless Orianna's available.
When we look at this from season 3, I made a vine of all the bans, and there was 4 or 5 champions that had to be banned on either team, and then there was just some other ones that were just kind of.
Was that last season?
Yeah, no, it was season 3, not season 2. But yeah, there was like 6 that just had to be banned. So, and then you pick your lesser of 2 evils pretty much when you only have 3. But anything else, Irelia guys?
Nope.
No, that's the extent of it.
All right.
Do we want to do listener questions, or do we want to talk about the Victor update?
I'm going to walk into the listener questions. We'll save Victor for Wednesday.
Okay.
As right at this point in the Trinity Force podcast, guys, I'm making a call out for more listener questions. We have quite a number in the bag, but yours will get responded to live on the podcast more than likely if you write in, because we have about 2, maybe 2.5 months at this point where we are going to be fishing for topics. We're going to be trying to find things to talk to you
Well, not
about.
entirely true. They're gonna do the season 5 game changes and everything.
But that's not until November, probably.
I bet we start hearing about it in September.
Possibly.
You want to actually bet?
No, I don't want to.
Oh God.
I'm not betting
Want a
anymore.
sweet
I'm not even doing the world's final betting. I'm not betting anymore. Not because I've
Smart
lost.
man.
I actually did pretty well in the last time we bet. I just don't want to bet anymore.
Oh, yeah, I always lose. I'm not betting this time, but that's because I'm moving soon, and I'd like to not throw my money around recklessly with
Pretty much.
with all the stuff that I will have to buy.
Yeah, smart man. I gambled once in my life, and that was at a casino in Bulgaria while I was over on a tour in Kosovo. And I donated the $200 I had for the 4-day leave to the casino there playing blackjack. So then I realized,
gambled.
nope, this wasn't very
way more than one time in my life. Gambling is great.
Yeah.
Well, let's gamble on our questions and see if we can get them right. Inquisitor Kane writes in, how do you buy items properly? Should I always rush my first big item, or is it easier to buy more tier 2 items for overall stats? When I go back to...
if you play your cards right. All right, go on.
Wait, if you play your cards right. Yeah. When I go back to base and have enough gold for buying stuff, I never know what the best thing is to do.
The best advice I ever heard on this actually came from Curse's Cop. It was a post-game interview, and the analyst, he was at the desk, the analysts were asking, why did you get this item at this stage of the game? And he's like, it's what I could afford, and having that item was going to be better for the next team fight than not having anything. So yeah, you do want to prioritize certain big items, but if you go back, if you're the marksman and you're planning an infinity edge first, and you go back and the only thing you can afford is the pickaxe, you can't afford the BF sword, get the pickaxe. That's still going to help you out instead of trying to waiting for the really big part of that.
Meanwhile, they came back to lane with something huge.
Right, unless you're saving for a Rod of Ages, which you need to get ASAP so it can start building. Buy whatever you can and spend every last piece of gold on wards to fill up the rest of your inventory.
But even then, if you go back to base and you can't afford your catalyst or the blasting wand, you should still be able to afford, the ruby and sapphire crystals.
That's why I've been yelling
crystal
about
and food.
Step items for so long.
Right.
That's why step items are so good, because you can buy pieces of it. There's even a point where Riven, you can have 3 longswords. Talon can do the same thing. Hell, Renekton could do the same thing. You could roll
Marksman
with 3
could do it.
longswords.
Marksman could just buy 2 BF swords.
Yeah, potentially they could just buy it if they have the money.
That's cheaper than getting an infinity edge, and so as a result, you are going to have more damage than your opponent if everything else is equal in the lane. I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but if you think about it, like from that same angle, like by buying items in that fashion, you do open a small window for yourself and probably your team.
Right. The thing is, what do you want to do when you get back to lane? Quickly answer that question before you go back. Am I top lane and am I dueling quite a bit? I'm going to pick up dueling items. Am I dueling and taking lots of damage? Okay, I'm going to buy some kind of defensive item. I'm going to buy don't forget tier 2 boots. A lot of people forget about those. Those are cheap and easy to buy very early, especially in the top lane. If you're taking physical damage, buying that Ninja Tabi is...
I see people go entire games without upgrading their boots to tier 2, and I'm like, that's so many easy, awesome stats you are leaving
on the board, right. And even the tier 3 enchants, those could be very helpful and very beneficial as a third buy or a fourth buy. You know, after you get a big item, you can go rush right until it's tier 3, especially a marksman, having the fur enchant, be able to walk more quickly to kite things around. That could mean the difference in a team fight during Dragon, where you're only able to get anything off. Stuff.
Pure on Gnar, by the way, is fun for his mini Gnar because you're always sticking to him and hitting him.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
but
I bet.
I like Dom's advice, or Cop's advice, I should say, where it's buy what you can afford and buy what's going to help you the most during the phase that you're at in the game.
Yep. Sometimes if you're falling behind, it may just be an elixir. You know, maybe you don't have enough for anything significant, and you already have your wards on the map. Okay, grab an elixir.
I think
pop it when you get back to lane.
A mini conversation, maybe a good conversation about understanding how to itemize at that point in the game, because I could go back with 1,000 gold, but I'm always losing trades and I don't know what to buy. So that comes to champion. You need to understand champion matchups. You need to understand what kind of damage you're taking. If you've died a couple times, look at your champion, the death recount, and say, I have taken 75% magic damage. I need to pick up magic resist. That's more important. Staying alive is more important than doing damage.
Sometimes when I'm alive and I just barely make it back to base after getting my butt kicked, I'm like, oh, I wish I had a damage recap to see what kicked my butt so I could itemize for it. But Data makes a good point. Whenever I die, first thing I do is hit tab and say, what the hell hit me? Look for the purple and look for the AD damage. And then, of course, I see true damage, and it's like, well, son of a bitch. But
the meta has shifted a lot since I actually did the research on this, but there was a time where every marksman was getting a pretty early zeal. And I crunched the numbers. It actually made more sense for every marksman to be buying a Warden's Mail instead of zeal, because you were getting damage reduction and you were effectively neutralizing the attack speed bonus they were getting. Now, no marksman was doing this except for my brother, because I pointed this out to him, and he was like, yeah, it was funny when they started doing trades with me because it didn't fucking matter. And so I was taking less damage, and they weren't hitting me with all the attack speed they thought they had, so I was winning every trade anyway. But like sometimes just looking at the game sort of from a different angle from what everybody else is doing is going to be that little edge you need to sort of take the next step. Like, I mean, it's what you guys were just saying right now. The matchups are going to dictate what you really need to buy, and sometimes it's just buying the defensive item because you deal 0 damage if you're dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what?
You just have to turtle it out for 40 minutes before you're able to do damage, or 38 minutes in our case.
And if you're unsure about what to buy, and you're not looking towards building an item that'll cost $475, or what is it, $400? Doran's items. Freak said it on a what was it? One of the Challenger Series games. He was talking about it, and it actually made a lot of sense. A Doran's is like an elixir that doesn't time out. You know, you're going to sell it and get some money back for it. You look at it as a waste, like you got an elixir, it's kind of a waste, you know, but it gave you that little spike. Doran's items are the same way. They're somewhat cheap when you look at the sellback price, and it'll give you that spike you might need.
Sellback for what, like 160 or 140 or something?
It's a smaller power spike that doesn't time out. And I think that Warden's Mail thing was prompted by something I saw on Reddit. Now that I think about it, it wasn't me doing the numbers, but still.
I used to hate buying more than one Doran's Blade because the passive before they changed the lifesteal wasn't as good. But now that it's lifesteal, it scales better into mid-game. There was a drunken game you can go find in the channel. It might even be on the YouTube channel where I was playing mid-turn or top turn, and I bought 5 Doran's Blades and made it back into the game because of all that extra lifesteal and health.
My buddy Andrew used to do that when he was jungling Nocturne. He thought about it, he's like Nocturne, like everybody was building tank Nocturne. He's like, what the fuck do I need to worry about them killing me if they're running from me because I'm murdering them so fast? And it's like, it's kind of true.
Before the machete items, I would jungle Pantheon with Doran's Blade and Pot. I couldn't even have Pot. I think it was just Doran's Blade. And
you
then
get like level 2 first blood on Pantheon if you ran nothing but nothing but AD and then bought like a Doran's right out of the gate. Like you could just murder somebody the second you got your stun.
Yep.
Well, hopefully that answers your question, Inquisitor Kane. Volcano Techie, our favorite writer, penman,
our favorite repeat questioner.
Repeat questioner. What
listener.
No. I want to give him a special title because he's wrote in so many times.
Yeah. The Grand Poobah of questions.
Volcano Techie writes, can you please talk about when, who, how, and why a person should consider playing a mid-lane marksman? Fast pushing, easy towers, dragon control. Early. Everything is early with the mid-game marksman because you have the
get
range.
Ball rolling fast, yeah.
You have the range to out-poke or out-trade the enemy, and you have more... You're not hindered by your mana to do damage. You are...
I mean, sorta. You don't want to play a mid-lane marksman against LeBlanc.
Right.
Sure.
Or Pantheon, for that matter. Pantheon will murder the shit out of you.
But also somebody like Ezreal, who can come back to the mid game and have a spike, and he uses. I mean, he comes like a mage, but he can get funny angles to do damage, and he does very well with helping to take towers with his essence flux. It really comes down to it's a fast push strategy with an AD mid or early kills, or just early lane control. I should say you're not necessarily going to get a kill, but you're controlling the lane better than a mage would because you don't use as much mana.
You're going for early, like basically game control. Like early objectives, early overall game control, and then the late game, because your mid game is going to be where it's really bad.
Right.
Because you don't have the items to like when team fights are going on, you don't have the items to be really the big contributor that a mage would normally be at that point.
And late game, once you get on turrets, those turrets are going to melt if you have 280 carries.
But technically, if you're playing it correctly and your team is playing with you correctly with that AD mid, you can force mid-game faster where you do have a better power spike than the other person who's not getting as much farm as you or as much gold because you're pushing towers faster than what they can do or more objectives they can do.
That's not entirely true because part of the logic behind a mid-game mage is because they just scale really well with levels. They scale better with levels than marksmen do, so even if the marksman is doing better overall, the meager farm that the mage would be getting and then the just generally improved damage is going to be more meaningful in the mid game.
My point is taking into consideration the rest of your team and the gold the rest of your team is getting and the objective control because you can roam with your jungler who is now going to have a little bit more extra goal and control than the enemy is, so that makes you just a little more powerful than that mage who has to spend his time in mid. So if that tower is out at 10 minutes, you have more control of the map, which allows you to technically have like a power spike that he wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, lately I've seen a lot of mid-game AD Tristanas who are just wrecking.
Thanks, boy.
Destroying. Yeah, so it works.
I really like Quinn mid.
She's good. She's a good duelist. And her ult makes her like really nice and like everywhere. Just fucking fly to one of the lanes and either kill somebody or take the objective. I didn't mean to do that. Or no, I lost. Thanks to Claude. It's gone.
Fly to one of the other lanes and take objectives.
Yeah, murder somebody or take an objective or do both.
Well, and here's the thing: if the jungler and the mid laner both roam at the same time, and your mid laner is an AD. And you do get that kill off on like the top lane, or the jungler can turn a kill in mid or whatever. That's such an early, like an easy early turret. And like Adam was saying, the whole point of this is getting that early kind of push that will allow you to snowball later on in the game and basically give you an advantage from the early game into the mid game, so you don't have to worry about that trade-off for taking an AD carry mid when an AP carry would shine.
We also have to consider that mages in the mid don't have a lot of armor, which allows you to do more damage in trades. And you can walk in the lane with the same amount of magic resist as an enemy normal mage mid laner. So any harass you're taking is no more or no less, but you are doing more back to them potentially.
Who would we do? I mean, so overall, who would we do for this? Tristana,
Ezreal.
Quinn, Ezreal.
You can do it as Lucian.
Corki. No reason Corki couldn't fit in there.
Yeah, Corki could.
Yep. I don't know. I still prefer mages just
Caitlyn?
for the CC.
She's not that. I mean, she can. She's a really big bully pre-6, but when some champions when they hit 6 as well get that enough of a power spike that they can push Caitlyn out because she has to stand in place to use any of her abilities like Q, where Tristana can hit you with an E and then move around to do extra damage, for example. And your escape is really shitty, like super shitty.
I wonder if Graves.
A lot of AD carries that are AD casters are usually pretty good. And the issue with Graves is that his normal auto attack range is so short. He's going to get crushed
and
even with his
sustain is terrible with his mana.
Yeah. Lucian's good just because he's so mobile. Because your E comes off cooldown so quickly, and you're doing damage through creeps without actually. You don't have to push as many creeps as you would with Graves, for example. And then Vayne is all 1-on-1 using walls to get it. And there are no walls in the mid lane for Vayne to succeed.
Well, that and her range is really short too, so she's going to be eating harass every time she's trying to last hit if somebody's trying to zone her.
That's why Tristana's so great. You get those levels, and the range just keeps increasing with every level.
It's easier.
So why would
and
you
easier.
prefer a mage over a carry mid for the mid game?
Well, that and damage variety.
A carry mid's going to do more sustained
Control
damage.
and AoE?
The AP mid has the ability to walk up and blow somebody up instantly.
Part of it is that,
First.
like, in solo queue, your team needs to understand what your goals are with an AD mid, and you can't rely on that. You can't assume they're going to know. So you kind of have to take a lot. You got to take a lot of charge, I guess, for lack of a better term. You know, if you're going to do it in solo queue. If you're doing it in fives, it's a different story. Then you're going to have, like, you're going to know. Your team should know what you're getting into, but...
See, assassins mid are good, and they work. And that's why I think you're suggesting champions like Quinn. She's kind of like an assassin. You know, they made her an assassin ADC hybrid,
So
which
weird,
is
yeah.
It's
which
the
is
burst
why
damage.
she's not really good as a standard ADC.
She's a really good duelist.
If
there.
you could
So she
drop, if
fits
you
there
could drop
solely.
somebody to half-life or just a little bit above, that puts you in a really good position to sit in the mid lane and harass the opponent. That's why Zed works so well, because once he hits 6, he has that push R to win button, and Quinn can force you out of the lane, and you don't want to try to trade with Quinn, because as soon as you get in range, you're gonna eat. You could potentially eat a double passive proc.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or try to trade and she blinds you, and then she's still trading with you and you're doing nothing.
You need to
Ask Tom
respect the
about
Harrier.
that.
You need to respect that.
Yes, respect Harrier.
Especially if you're going against a Varus who misses his Q on you.
You know what's funny? You want to talk about that just real quick? I do want to point out that high level tactics are, you expect people to move and walk in a certain direction, so you'll miss skill shots on high level players. Krepo talked about this a long time ago. It was probably season 2. He said actually high level tactic is to do exactly the opposite of what you've been trained to do and just stand in place, because players expect you to move.
I've lamented that many times. I've just often like, I can't tell if this person is really good or just has no clue what he's supposed to be doing, because I'll miss a skill shot that I had every reason to hit if the person did what he or she was supposed to do in that situation.
Yeah. So you go through a place in League where you're really bad and you don't move. You're really good and you move a lot, and then you're really, really good and you don't move because they expect you to move. So that's it's weird how it moves up and down. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next question here. With 10 minutes left in the podcast, Jesus Bound writes, can you briefly talk about players focusing on ending the game methodically with Siege instead of becoming greedy and hunting for kills? That's, well, I'm not really sure how to answer your question here, Jesus.
He wants us to talk about how they focus on sieging to end the game instead of hunting for kills. Well, it also depends. If you're a pick comp, that's what you're designed to do, is to hunt for kills. But if you have the advantage as the pick comp to the point where you can siege, where the enemy's on their back foot, so you pretty much are sieging, here's the point. You can only siege when you're ahead. If you can't win straight up 5v5 team fights, you can't siege unless you get a pick. So once you get that pick, it depends. I would say methodically sieging the game instead of hunting for kills is how everybody wants to play to win. You hunt for kills when they're out of their base and you don't have any of them dead at the moment. Or if it's that weird mid stage where everyone's kind of wandering around wondering what to do with the Baron, then you can go for that. Baron is the big deciding factor here. If Baron is up, generally you want to do that whole Baron dance. Skyen with his shirt is going to say keep calm and don't go for Baron, because that's the case.
Should say keep calm and don't pull a Dignitas.
Did anybody watch Fnatic play last week in the semifinals, where Xpeke got the Oscar for his acting skills? What they would do is they would clear wards around Baron. Xpeke and Syndra would sit outside the Baron pit in vision of a ward, sit there throwing spheres like he's attacking Baron, but he's not, and his whole team's waiting in the Baron pit. Then they come barreling in and they destroy him. So you generally want to get a kill first to give yourself an advantage, a numbers advantage, and then take the siege.
Fnatic has always loved doing tricky shit like that.
I know. It's so entertaining to watch.
See, that's why there was a curse game like that where he started backing at the end of a ward dying, but he didn't actually back. So they thought that LMQ thought that curse was backing, and they walk over and took a 3-man dragon or Baron because of it. And there are mind games you can do if you understand the timers in this game, but I still like Jesus. Really the difference here is that it's team play versus solo queue. I would say there's at a point in the game with every team out there, it's 5v5, solo queue, whatever it may be, that you just have to stop hunting for kills and start taking objectives and working around as a team, because every time that you take a kill and you give one back, you are giving that enemy team one small step to coming back into this game.
Your focus should always be ending the game as quickly as you possibly can. It's really not a situation. I mean, how many games have we as a group won just because we managed to wait until they started making mistakes? Like, we had performed terribly for the first, 38 minutes of the game, and then still managed to turn around and win that game. The game ends at 44 minutes or whatever, but we just needed that 6 minutes because they finally made a mistake.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, and if you show yourself getting let's say you dogpile someone up top and bottom has a enemy minion wave pushing, they see you show yourself, they can rotate real quick and take an objective, and they can just play that rotate. You may get a kill here, a kill there, you're hunting kills across the map, but if they take advantage of the information they have, knowing where you are, and take an objective, then they're gaining the advantage. So still look at objectives as the main point of interest. Don't give up a kill. But I would rather take a turret than a kill on one of their champions.
Just keep in mind that objectives win games. Don't hunt for kills. I don't care how far you ahead. I mean, it's really fun, and we all have fun, and we do it, and sometimes we fuck around, and it loses the game. But like I said, every kill you give up, every assist you give up, every dragon you give up, every buff you give up, every CS you give up is experience and gold and just another piece that a person can use to get back into this game. You never know. You might be sieging a tower and then give up 2 kills, and that could have been the 600 gold that double-killed player needed to get his next item, like a Yasuo picking up a Blade of the Ruin King. Boom, he hit that giant spike, and you just lost 3 minutes of time.
Yeah.
However, if you are behind and there's no way you can siege a turret because their team's ahead of yours, look for those kills, because you need to get something to get you back in the game. But don't let your objectives die as a trade-off.
Yep. And if you're on the other side, vision everywhere that you can. Play very safe. Don't wander alone. Sometimes you have to give up barons. I know Dom is pretty bad about this sometimes, where you just feel like you have to ward and you'll get caught. I think it's really a support thing.
All supports do it.
Like you have to ward.
I mean, I'm bad, but like every support is, just because you have to get the vision for your team.
Run with your support when you don't see the vision.
Your team can't. I mean, more often than not, your team can't afford to send somebody with you. Either there are people are dead and they're waiting to respawn, or there are minions that have to be cleaned up. The bookkeeping has to get done, and that's the support's role on the bookkeeping side.
This is where the marksman scrying orb comes into play.
Yeah,
I mean, there support ward safely.
To a degree, you just have to develop that spider sense for knowing where it's safe to go and throw a ward down, where it's kind of sketchy and where you shouldn't be. And it's those sketchy areas that sometimes just end up getting you in trouble. Every now and then you go where you think you're going to be safe and you just get totally murdered. And you're like, wow, they are way deeper in our jungle than I thought they should be, guys. We're not going to win this one. But going to throw the ward on Baron, that you have to get it there. If you don't have vision, they're going to take it totally uncontested if you don't even try.
Sometimes you have to give it up. We're going back to Season 2 with Moscow 5 and CLGEU. Sometimes you give up 3 Barons and sit the game out to 60 minutes. Now, that was an entirely different game at that point, where you could turtle and do that, and there was no extra buffs or anything. But sometimes you have to give up that Baron, and it sucks, and you have to fight through it, but you have, it's risk reward. Is it worth losing my support and now them having a chance 50 to barrel down mid and win the game? Or would it be better to keep my support up and protect everybody? Make the decision, and if it's wrong, do the opposite next time.
So pick Ziggs or Lux or someone who can long range attempt to snipe it and pray.
Well, let's move on to the last question here of the night. John and Etherius writes in. They write us two similar questions, and this might put me on a soapbox for a moment. I don't think I'm going to rant too hard, but...
Oh, you're going to dust off Hornet's soapbox?
Last time we brought this back
so
out.
long since anybody used that.
I'm wiping it off. There we go. And the dust flies everywhere. Soapbox there. Okay. The first piece of this email that came in, John writes in, I am still in bronze, though I don't feel that is an accurate representation of my skill. Whenever anybody says this, and I apologize, John, I'm going to rant, and it's not, it is, and it's not specifically at you. Don't take it personally, but
take it personally.
But take it personally. Here's my problem with anybody saying I don't feel that's an accurate representation of my skill. I was there. I was sitting in gold, and I said, I'm a platinum player. I don't feel this is accurate representation of my skill. But I did something about it, and I showed everybody I can make platinum. Now, this year, I'm saying the same thing. Like, I'm saying I could probably hit diamond, but I'm not saying I am a diamond player because I'm not actually a diamond player. I need to put the time in, and I have to make it there. If you cannot get out of bronze, you cannot get out of silver, you cannot get a gold, you can't get a plat. It's not because of your team. Now, there are going to be games where that happens, and your team is the reason that you can't get out. But a good player or a player at the next skill level, the next caliber, understands how to play the game well enough that they can push the team to victory either by leading, by winning themselves, or by supporting well enough that their team wins for you and you learn to get carried. There are so many factors in this game that need to be taken into consideration that just because you're in bronze and you feel like you lose every game, that's not your teammates. You are one of 5 people on the team. You are one of the reasons the team is losing, even if you're 10-1. You did something wrong. You fucked up somewhere if you're 10-1 and your team still lost. Like, you're Riven, you're 10-1, you took your first tower, but now the team is losing. What could you have done? Not get those 5 kills and walk someplace else and try to help the team out. Like, there's just so much you can do in this game to make yourself up to that next level that you can never say, I don't feel that I am bronze skill level.
To interrupt, like, sometimes it really just is stepping up and being the leader for the team. Like, you might know everything that needs to get done, but if you don't communicate that to the rest of the team and just take charge, like, that's the failing that that is your failing, and that's why your team ended up losing the game. It's because you didn't speak up. And I'm more guilty of this than most people because I play the role where I should be communicating that type of stuff, and I just tend to be pretty quiet in game chat and that type of thing. And it ends up losing games. Like, I know what the right call is. I don't speak my mind. I don't bring it up and tell the team what we should be doing. And then, if we lose the game, that's really on me.
Don't expect your team to know it. If you have
they can't read your mind. They
information,
can't read your mind.
Right. Not everybody has ESPN.
Yeah. Dom definitely doesn't ESPN. How many times have we been in bot lane? I'm in my head, I'm going aggressive, and I don't tell Dom, and I'm like, Dom, why'd you follow up? He's like, well, I can't read your mind. I didn't know what you were doing.
You're actually really good at saying what you want to do. I think it's because you're really used to having junglers babysitting your lane and saying what you want to do, and then they come up and then you get stuff done and everything. So with you, I actually don't have a lot of trouble like I would have with most marksmen because you're just going to say what you want to do. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. So yeah, every now and then you're like, Tom, why didn't you follow up? It's like, because I had no idea you were going to do that right now. But with Victor, it is like almost an ESPN situation because like he has certain mannerisms where I can read what he is going to do next. But, I've known the guy my entire life. So,
right.
Or his entire life, I guess I should say.
That was how my brother and I were whenever we were playing RTS games or in the early days in Battle.net and stuff like that. It's just teamed up, we could pretty much read each other's minds. But in solo queue, I'm also guilty of that, Dom. I'll be quiet, and I'll even, as soon as somebody says something that looks remotely toxic, I'll mute them in their AI, and all of a sudden there's no communication between me and him because I don't want to deal with it. So a lot of times...
To move on to the next piece of this question, just because I feel like we're kind of going on about understanding players, which is great and I like it. He did ask what's the most viable position to move up in ranks. What champions do you suggest? Yada yada. I'm not going to answer that question like you want it to be answered because the definitive answer is get better at one role. Find the role that you are best suited to play. Find the role that makes you
I don't like that. Find the role you want to play. Play the role you want to play. Get good at that role.
Okay.
I don't like find the role you're best suited to play.
Well, find a role, stick to that role, stick to 1 or 2 roles, make your or do all 5 and feel like you can play one of the roles better than the person who doesn't normally play it. Like if somebody says, I can't play jungle, well, maybe it's time for you to pick up jungle because that happened to you in the last 5 games, and you can play jungle one step better than the person who couldn't play jungle or doesn't want to play jungle.
And on the same train as that, as the same train as that, just because the guy in the game before you was really bad at jungle, don't jump into jungle and deny somebody who may be good at jungle in the next game just because you're worried that guy who just went 1-7 on Lee Sin, you don't want another one of those when you have no idea how to play the role, and then bam, you just jump into that situation yourself.
That's actually the best part about playing with you guys, is because none of you are like me and that you've only specialized in one role. So you got all of you, like, you have roles that you prefer to play, but like Sean in any game can competently play any role. Like he has 3 champions available on every role and then more on certain roles, and like so he'll do whatever, and whatever his team needs him to do, and that's just going to improve his team's chances to win. I am the worst at solo queue, really, because I can only play the one role proficiently, and then like I'm dead weight during laning on every other role, and on marksman it's even like I'm like a harpoon pulling, stuck in a rock that's pulling the team literally in the other direction. I'm so bad at all the things that role needs a person to be good at.
So that makes it hard. That makes it stressful too when you don't get your pick. So try to learn the other roles.
Part of my aversion to solo queue. It's like I don't want to cause people to lose.
So you don't want to play it, right?
Because I got paired with somebody who was also a support lane, and I didn't get to play support.
Well,
another duo, you get a better chance to play the role you want.
As another side piece to this question, that's a big part of ranking up too. You have to put in the time of played games, and if you're feeling that apprehension to play because of X or Y factors and you're not playing, you're not going to be ranking up anyway.
John asks if it's viable to move up the ranks as support. Yes, it's perfectly viable. You can do it, and for a long time, nobody wanted to play support, so it was pretty much a guaranteed role.
I hit platinum playing support.
John, look at Days Untold. She started bronze, and she's diamond, or headed to diamond, platinum.
Yeah, I mean, it's
that's her main role.
You absolutely can. You're probably best off being able to play 3 roles. If you're a support main, you really should play. You really should be a jungle secondary, because you don't need, like, the mechanics for support are going to translate pretty well to jungle. You have to have a different understanding of timers and ganking sense, but you don't need to know how to last hit, and you need to be focused more on objectives and making kills happen than actually like getting the kills yourself.
I like how Adam brought up that he carried himself to plat with support, because he straight up carried himself to plat from the support role by not letting bad AD carries hold him back and by winning the lane for them.
It's true.
Which is exactly what you have to do. Like,
by doing the opposite of what support's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But as Annie, but
never mind. I got you back to gold 1.
Yeah, you took
just playing support for you, and then we were
Dom was relating to similar roles. My brother plays AD carry primarily. That's just his role. That's pretty much he's like you, Dom. That's his one role, and if he doesn't get it, then he's pretty much dead weight, except for support. He likes to play support, and like Adam plays him, he'll play support in a carry type of way, but he is just loving the new Sona, and he uses the new Sona so aggressively that he's succeeding. So he'll type in the champion select, look, I main ADC, but if I can't get it, I would please like to have support. If he's last pick. Most of the time, let him have it.
It's really helpful if you do that right off the bat instead of just calling one role. Put support greater than jungle, greater than mid, and everything like that. Then way everybody knows those are your preferred roles. But they also understand like what you're capable of playing. If you don't put top and marksman on there, then somebody else is probably going to be willing to step up and take those 2 roles just because they know what you are capable of doing for the rest of the team otherwise.
Well, hopefully that answers your question. I'm sorry to stick you up and set you on fire, but your question sparked a little bit.
Set him on fire. I think he's better for it.
Right.
Yep.
I do want to point out somebody was saying at episode 200 we should do a 5v5. Well, the T-Force LCS Rundown and the Trinity Force Podcast are doing a 5v5 either the first or second week of September. I have to go back and confirm the date in my email. We'll have that for you on Wednesday. I want to say it was September 13th.
It's definitely not the first week because I might not even have internet.
Oh, that's right. It's September 13th then. We're doing a 5v5. It's actually going to be Ultimate Bravery.
No, I thought it was the 8th. It was the second week.
It's not a Monday.
That's fine. I'm saying it was the second week. It was like the 6th or the 7th because I can't do it on the 13th either.
Really?
It is on the calendar that we set.
Shut up. We'll take care of it next week. We'll take care of it off the podcast. No need to argue it for these people to listen to. But yeah, no, we're going to do it in September. Sometime in early September, we are going to be doing a 5v5 versus the T-Force LCS Rundown. We would play Oz LOL, but their funny time is just really awkward, and I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. to play these guys. I love you.
That and there are serious lag concerns either way.
Yeah. So that is it for episode number 187 of the Trinity Force Podcast. Thank you guys for listening, watching, and supporting us. Don't forget to check out our sponsors. Don't forget to check out our donate button and everything. We have a lot more coming for you in the future, and hopefully you guys stick with us through that. So we will see you guys Wednesday. See you then.
Bye, guys.
Bye. So, Sean, you dropped a penny?